Hello and a warm welcome to TBC News. Our top stories. Government eyes viable livestock sector. World Bank lauds Tanzanian sound economic management. Good evening, I am Faida Ngaga. You can also follow us live via our YouTube channel, TBC Online. Also, get all the latest news through our Instagram, Facebook and Twitter pages at TBC Online. The Vice President, Dr. Philip Mpango, has called on the young people who have benefited from the cattle rearing and fattening project to teach other youth so as to improve livestock sector in the country. Dr. Mpango was inspecting the project at the Mabuke Livestock Farm in Misungwi District in Mwanza region. Here's a report by James Larombo, read by Lulua Muhammad.
Tanzania is the third country for having the most livestock in the African continent. Despite that quantity, the productivity of livestock products is said to be low, and this is due to the livestock not meeting international standards. Tanzania is the third country for having the most livestock in the African continent. Despite that quantity, the productivity of the livestock products is said to be low, and this is due to the livestock not meeting international standards. As a result of this situation, the government has invested more than 4.4 billion shillings to train more than 240 young people across the country to increase the productivity of the livestock sector.
Sasa mimi nataka huo utaratibu kwamba kwenye kata
I want system where a livestock officer in a particular ward will have his own house and the number of their livestock. We must do this transformation, and these measures that the government is determined to do are very serious. Livestock is valuable and the markets are available in Arabic countries, but we need to develop our livestock to reach the quality required in the market. I congratulate you for the progress shown to me today, and I am living with great hope that the President will not complain about the livestock sector and its institutions. You should manage them with integrity so that we can move forward as a nation.
The Vice President, Dr. Philip Mpango, arrives at the Mabuke Livestock Farm located in Misungwi District in Mwanza region, the aim being to see what has been invested by the government. Here, Dr. Mpango gives a directive to the beneficiaries of the project.
We have many colleges for livestock, crop farming, fishing, and others. The minister deserves to be congratulated for showing the beginning of the changes in the livestock sector. It is a good step to start improving by fattening our livestock, but now I know you will have programs to improve even further the livestock itself. But let's reach an extent where we can change them.
The Minister of Livestock and Fisheries, Abdallah Ulega, says that despite the projects of increasing the productivity of the livestock sector, it also opens employment opportunities for young people in the country.
One of
the major things we set for ourselves in our plan this year is the instruction for the election manifesto, our master plan and the national strategic plans. Honorable Vice President, we should vaccinate our livestock just as humans should vaccinate. The government of the sixth term, the Minister of Livestock and Fisheries, is determined to go to the national practice, and with the tools we have provided, we are introducing every specialist who has been given the tool into the system. We should know where he or she is and what he or she is doing in the ministry. We want to connect them with a special tool that will not allow them to do personal activities instead of going to the livestock keepers.
The expectations of many is seeing the livestock sector flourish and make the nation a leader in the production of livestock products in the world. Mabuke Livestock Farm is one of the 8 existing centers in the country where, until now, the centers of Tanga, Kagera, and this one of Mabuke in Mwanza region continue with livestock fattening farming projects.
From Mwanza, let's now fly to Zanzibar, where we're told the president of Zanzibar and the chairman of the Revolutionary Council, Dr. Hussein Ali Mwinyi, says the report of the Commission to review performance of criminal justice institutions will provide guidance to the government on how to effectively improve criminal justice systems. President Dr. Mwinyi made the remarks at the State House in Zanzibar when he met with the Commission. Is a report by Swaumu Mavura, read by Apasia Ringo.
Is the visit of the Commission for the Review of Performance of Criminal Justice Institutions in Zanzibar. They are here to meet the President of Zanzibar and the Chairman of the Revolutionary Council, Dr. Hussein Ali Mwinyi.
Tarajio yetu ni kwamba ripoti ya tume hii itatupa mwanga mzuri sasa.
Our expectation is that the report of this commission will pave a way on what to do as a government. Both governments will work on the improvement of the systems and institutions in order to be able to get justice, especially regarding criminal matters, more effectively.
President Dr. Mwinyi says the Commission will come up with recommendations for amendments that will need to be made on the criminal justice system, including the structural amendments of the relevant institutions.
After the completion of the whole exercise, we are waiting to get the information of Commission when its work is completed, so that our two governments can make the amendments that will be required or recommended with the purpose of building the entire criminal justice system in our country.
Then the visit went on to Mazizini office, the office of First Vice President Othman Masood Othman, and then to the Second Vice President Hamed Suleiman Abdallah. The chairman of the commission, retired Chief Justice Mohammed Othman Chande, says the 5-day visit will include talking with institutions dealing with criminal justice, including the police force, the training college, the Zanzibar Drug Control Authority, the Anti-Corruption and Economic Sabotage Authority, ZAECA, immigration, courts, chief government chemist, civil institutions, and citizens.
The World Bank has praised Tanzania for sound economic management and the implementation of various development projects that receive funds from the institution compared to many other African countries. Nasser Kingu has more.
The commendations were given by the Executive Director of the World Bank Africa Group 1 constituency, Dr. Floribert Ngaruko, when he met and held talks with the Tanzanian delegation led by the Minister for Finance and Planning, Dr. Mwigulu Lameck Nchemba, at the spring meetings of the World Bank at the International Monetary Fund, IMF, in Washington, D.C. Dr. Ngaruko, who is the new Executive Director of the World Bank in the region, says Tanzania is a model country in the management of economic and financial policies, where despite the challenges of COVID-19 and the ongoing war between Russia and Ukraine, the bank's assessment shows that Tanzanian economy is even stronger compared to other African countries.
But first of all, I would like really to congratulate you for the economic management that we are seeing in Tanzania. You highlighted, Honorable Governor, you highlighted some, you shared some figures on macroeconomic achievements, but those come from macroeconomic management, and this is really commendable. You very modestly talked about the performance on inflation. Actually, it is the lowest in not just AEC, but in most of Africa.
In addition, he commends the relations that exist between Tanzania and the World Bank. He promises that his bank will continue to support Tanzania in its efforts to develop the economy and eliminate poverty by supporting funds that will be used to implement various economic and social projects, as well as providing technical assistance. On his part, the Minister for Finance and Planning, Dr. Mwigulu Nchemba, says Tanzania's economy is getting stronger, and the government will continue to take essential steps to ensure that the economy is getting even stronger and bring relief to the Tanzanians. Our statement on behalf of the United Republic of Tanzania, as the President has emphasized, that we will use those funds that have been approved carefully. with full patriotism so that they can benefit Tanzanians. We thank the World Bank for continuing to believe in the United Republic of Tanzania and to adopt these projects that are of great benefits to our country. It should be remembered that our country will host two major events, one being the Human Capital Summit, which will take place on 24th to 26th July, and the MTR meeting, which will be held in December in Zanzibar. And these are very important meetings, and they stress on the cooperation between Tanzania and the World Bank. Until now, the World Bank has invested more than $7.2 billion, equivalent to approximately 16.7 trillion Tanzanian shillings, for the implementation of more than 29 projects in Tanzania.
In other news, the government is implementing 16 road projects with a length of 600 kilometers at a cost of more than 1.1 trillion Tanzanian shillings across the country in the financial year 2021-2022. It's a report by Henry Mabumo, read by Lulua Mohammed.
It is the third phase of the construction of the Rapid Bus Transit Project, which is one of the 16 road projects implemented by the government with the aim of stimulating even further the economy, reducing traffic congestions and the transit time. Chief Executive Officer of the Tanzania National Roads Agency, TANROADS, Engineer Rogatus Mativila, is inspecting the project and gives explanations on the funds approved together with the steps of implementation of some projects.
Kwa hiyo miradi hii ambayo ya mwaka 2021-22 iliyokuwa.
These projects which are for the year 2021-2022 that were put in the budget are automatically moved to the following year. The projects that have been allocated money for 2021-2022 will start to be processed for procurement. This means that the projects have already started. We demand money according to the certificates that is brought to us, so the money has been paid for ongoing projects.
Regarding the third phase of the bus project that goes first from Nkrumah Road to Gongo la Mboto, Engineer Mativila says the project will be completed in March next year.
Since they have already brought the equipment and experts and planned how to manage traffic, the gap that appeared will be closed because the contractor will work day and night. So by next year, we believe that infrastructure will be completed so that buses can start using this route.
The third phase BRT project manager, Baraka Eli Mari, says that the project is being implemented in two areas, aiming to have 30 bus stations, and that 2 kilometers is at tarmac level.
This project is divided into two parts. First, the preparation for the constructions of the infrastructure, which is what we are doing here. But we also have the preparation for the purchase of the service provider, and the ongoing work on the road is the constructions of the road, the rapid transit buses in the middle of the road.
Kenya and Tanzania have vowed to work together to curb fake and substandard products entering the two countries' markets. The agreement has been reached in Dar es Salaam between the Tanzanian Fair Competition Commission, FCC, and the Kenyan Anti-Counterfeiting Authority, ACA. Rehema Sebabili reports.
The special working sessions bringing together counterfeit professionals from both neighboring countries, whereby sharing experiences is their top agenda. The two countries have in recent years been faced with cross-border fake or substandard products, resulting into public mistrust in the quality of product from both countries. Their meeting, therefore, is to assess the situation and finally taking appropriate measure to provide solutions for this problem.
Most of the importation in Kenya come through the Mombasa port, and we have the same from Dar es Salaam port. What experience do they have? How do they combat counterfeit at the importation level? How do they inspect the containers on arrival? And what are the goods which are susceptible to anti-counterfeiting in Kenya, which more or less could be the same in Tanzania? So our focus of attention could be on those areas.
On his part, the Director General of the Kenyan Anti-Counterfeit Authority says the study conducted in Kenya in 2020 revealed the presence of substandard products worth of 100 billion Kenyan shillings are in circulation, a step that has led them to come up with a strategy to identify products before they are imported into the country.
We have adopted two approaches. One approach is what we are calling recordation of goods. This is where we want to curb counterfeiting at the source. Instead of allowing counterfeit good getting into the country, and then we spend a lot of money trying to chase those loose cargo, that loose cargo from one shop to the other. So at the source, we are able now to identify whatever is being imported into the country, does it meet the standards? If it does meet the standards, then we are able to allow it in through our ports of entry, that's the port of Mombasa, our different airports, and our border points.
We need to level the ground so that we can, or our traders, business people, can enjoy the diverse market in East Africa, the East African community. And that is not enough. If we can also empower them, we can also protect them, we can facilitate them, we can guard their investment.
If achieved, this strategy will provide a conducive environment for investors in both countries and improve cross-border business opportunities. Reporting from Dar es Salaam, Rehema Sebabili.
Thank you very much, Rehema Sebabili, for that report. Moving on, Tanzania Revenue Authority, TRA, has received 2 anti-smuggling boats. The state-of-the-art boats will be used to counter the contraband activities currently in the sea and lakes. It's a report by Rehema Sebabili, read by Apasia Ringo.
Receiving the fleet, the TRA Commissioner Alfayo Kidata says the smuggling activities in the lakes and oceans has to a great extent demoralized economic growth and put at stake the lives of consumers as well as threatening industrial development. Kidata adds that in the period of July to December 2022, TRA was able to seize goods that entered the country through smuggling with the value of more than 11 billion Tanzanian shillings before tax compared to the contraband goods seized in 2021 with a value of more than 7 billion Tanzanian shillings.
The issue is not just losing the tax, but the health of the people, because those goods which are being smuggled in the country, we are not sure about their safety, or we are not guaranteed of their, if they are still viable or they can be consumed, because most of the items which are smuggled are normally cooking oils, medicines, and also vitenge and the kanga. But on consumables, it is very dangerous and they're not recommended for us. That's why we encourage people to bring goods and whatever they're bringing through the proper ports where our health officials are there so they can look the validity of those goods.
On his part, the director of the American Ventures Limited, Milton Shango, says the boats cost more than 1.5 billion Tanzanian shillings.
Exceeded the technical specs. Once we received them, it was on our side to make interpretation of what we were supposed to do. And we did in the right way, and apart from that, we improved it to international standard. Like what you can see, the speed is so good, even the machines themselves. The boats are of required standard by the government.
The TRA Commissioner adds that approximately 2.5 billion Tanzanian shillings were approved in the budget for the year 2021-2022 for the purchase of 3 boats, where 2 boats have been handed over while 1 encountered fault while unloading it.
Now let's take a look at other stories. The Tanzania Gender Networking Program, TGNP, commends the government for promoting gender equality and allocating resources and funds for gender issues. Emmanuel Samuel has more.
Speaking during the discussions involving the non-governmental organizations on the expectations of the 2023-2024 budget and gender perspective, the TGNP Executive Director Lilian Liundi, says that the discussions aims at ensure that the budget is gender inclusive and supports women groups.
Kunapokuwa na mkakati wa kuongeza upatikanaji wa maji.
We understand about the burden of work without income for women, water being one of them. So for the government to emphasize access to water, we see that it is something that deserves to be recognized.
Ni jambo ambalo linastahili kutambuliwa na pia kupongezwa.
On their part, some civil society organizations, including government leaders who participated in the discussion, expressed their assessments on the gender perspective budget.
Lazima pia na vijana waweze kupata jukwaa sahihi.
When we say democracy for all, young people must also be able to find the right platforms to discuss their issues, including the allocation of funds for the implementation of the council from its establishments to its implementation.
There must be medicine to ensure pregnant women are not harmed during their delivery.
Hawapatwi na mazila ya vifo wakati wa kujifungua.
Mambo mengi yanatakiwa yafanyike.
Many things need to be done. First of all, we must look on how the government budgets consider gender issues.
The discussion was based on the theme on how to ensure budget with gender perspective. Emmanuel Samuel, TBC News.
Thank you very much, Emmanuel Samuel, for that report. And that item concludes local news. International news up next. Now let's have a look at international news with Apasia Ringo.
Kenyan President William Ruto has admitted that the government in Kenya is facing challenges to pay the salaries of public servants. Speaking during the release of the report on the evaluation of the performance of ministries, state corporations and tertiary institutions for the 2021-2022 financial year at the Kenyatta International Convention Center in Nairobi, President Ruto said the cliff has been occasioned by the mounting debts which have forced the nation to channel its money on paying them. President Ruto went on to affirm that the Kenyan government will not opt for excessive borrowing to cater for recurring expenditures, including salaries, stating that his administration will fully bank on taxes.
All I assure the country is the commitment I made that we are not going to borrow money to spend on recurrent expenditure, including salaries. That is the position of the government of Kenya. We will not do that.
The head of state, however, stated that the matter has been solved and public servants will soon receive their pay. Public servants use at least 50 billion Kenyan shillings monthly for salaries and 8 billion Kenyan shillings for their pension. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres has begun a short visit to Somalia to discuss with Somalia leaders on how to solve the famine issues and security situation facing the particular country. The visit by Guterres, who previously visited Somalia in March 2017, comes as the country is in the grip of disastrous drought that has pushed many to the brink of starvation. The UN has launched an appeal for $2.6 billion in humanitarian aid for the troubled Horn of African country, but it is currently only 13% funded.
Although Somalia makes virtually no contribution to climate change, the Somalis are among the greatest victims. Nearly 5 million people are experiencing high levels of acute food insecurity. And of course, rising prices make matters worse. So I call on donors and I call on the international community to step up their support. To urgently fund the 2023 Humanitarian Response Plan, which is currently just 15% funded. The Somali people deserve the solidarity of the international community.
5 consecutive failed rainy seasons in parts of Somalia, as well as Kenya and Ethiopia, have led to the worst drought in 4 decades, wiping out livestock and crops and forcing at least 1.7 million people from their homes in search of food and water. At least 40 people killed after Myanmar's military has launched air attacks on the central town of Pasig earlier on Tuesday. Witnesses and local media say dozens of people were also wounded in the attack, which is said to be one of the worst since the military seized control of the country. Citing residents in the area has said the air raids occurred as residents gathered for the inauguration of an administrative office. The crowd was attacked by jets and those were followed by Mi-35 helicopters, and there is no immediate response from Myanmar's military rulers after the attack. Junior doctors across England have launched a 40-day strike over pay that is likely to cause unprecedented disruption to the health service, leaving up to 250,000 appointments postponed. Doctors mounted picket lines outside hospitals on Tuesday to run until Saturday morning in the longest stoppage of the wave of unrest, which has seen nurses, ambulance crews and other health workers take action since last year. Tens of thousands of junior doctors, qualified physicians, who make up nearly half of the medical workforce, are striking for pay rises better aligned with inflation in the latest disruption to affect the state-funded National Health Service. The British Medical Association, BMA, the union representing doctors, wants a 35% rise, arguing that members have suffered a 26% real terms cut in pay over 15 years. The BMA has said the strikes by junior doctors, some of whom are very experienced, could be stopped if Health Secretary Steve Barclay put a credible pay offer forward. But the England Ministry of Health said that the BMA's demand are unreasonable and would mean an increase of more than £20,000 for some doctors.
That was international news. Sports news up next. Now let's dive deep into the sports news with Mario Cheto.
Confederation of African Football CAF will add 16 more teams to participate in the African Super League from 8 teams as the new league competition scheduled to take place in October. Tanzania Football Federation TFF President Wallace Karia says the additional teams to CAF Super League to 24 teams will depend on good football facilities in the countries and the drive of team fans.
The competitions has been made for teams which are doing best and they have more drive in football. So our teams are doing best and they have more drive and the good facilities which can be used for competitions.
Simba is the only team which CAF has confirmed that will participate in Super League from Tanzania. Other giant teams are Mamelodi Sundowns, Petro de Luanda, TP Mazembe, Horoya, Wydad Athletics Club, Esperance and El Ahly. Basketball national team coach Mohamed Mbwana has named 22nd men's squad of basketball national team to participate in the African Basketball Zone 5 qualifying campaign to be held in Tanzania from June 17th to June 23rd in Dar es Salaam. According to Tanzania Basketball Federation TBF, the squad will train for 6 weeks and play different competitive friendly matches, gearing up for the African showpiece. National teams which will compete to get one representative in the FIBA African Basketball Championship from Zone 5 are Egypt, Ethiopia, Eritrea, Rwanda, Burundi, Uganda, Sudan, Southern Sudan, Somalia, and host Tanzania. In international sports news, Manchester City coach Pep Guardiola says his squad is ready to take on Bayern Munich in Champions League quarter-final first leg at Etihad Stadium on Tuesday. Coach Guardiola adds that the game will be difficult for both teams, but the best team will win the match. Bayern Munich coach Thomas Tuchel says his side will try to win at Etihad Stadium, but his squad needs complete performance to create problems for City. Pep Guardiola has taken Man City to 6 successive Champions League quarterfinals, but they have never won the competition. Tuchel will be coming up against City boss Pep Guardiola for the 11th time in his managerial career. Another Champions League quarter-final match, Benfica from Portugal will play Italian champion Inter Milan. Malio Cheto, TBC News.
Thank you very much, Malio Cheto, for the sports news. And on that note, we are ending our news bulletin for tonight. Thank you very much for sticking to the very end. I am Faida Ngaga. Good night.